Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome on in to Pro Wrestling Weekly right here with the Takedown on SI on YouTube. I am Zach Cadorn, your host. That is Blake Lovell. He's your other host. Blake, man, should we call this a new era for our show too, now that John Cena is officially retired?
Luckily, one of us has yet to retire from this show, but yes, it is a new era for this show because we will not ever be talking about a John Cena match again until he comes back at WrestleMania in 2026.
Until Saudi Arabia next year. Oh my gosh. Well, if you missed it over the weekend, Blake and I did a full almost hour and 10 minutes on the John Cena retirement. So we fired up a special live episode of Pro Wrestling Weekly on Sunday. I guess it was Sunday late morning. Check that out because we went in depth and analyzed everything from the match, from the setup to the fallout to the finish to the little ceremony thing at the end that they did with Cena. And so much more too. So a lot of good questions from our live audience. So check that out if you haven't done so already. It's up here in the archives on YouTube. Because we did that show, we won't spend a ton of time on John Cena specifically today because we already talked so much about it in that last episode, which is why you need to turn your notifications on so you know when we are live here on the channel. But today we got a lot of stuff that we want to get to. We want to talk about Gunther. I want to talk about the big angle between CM Punk, Austin Theory, and Braun Breaker from Raw. MJF is back in AEW and already making waves. Continental Classic is going on. We got a bunch of news nuggets, and then of course we've got our Name That main event segment that will wrap the show a little bit later. So a ton to get to, and we'll jump right in here in a second. This is Pro Wrestling Weekly, and we're live with this show every single week on Thursday afternoons. Usually it's 12 Eastern. Today it's 1 Eastern to accommodate some schedule changes. But be here every Thursday afternoon. In order to do that, subscribe to the Takedown on SI on YouTube and make sure that you turn your notifications on so that you know when we are live. We got all sorts of stuff that hits the channel throughout the week, including pay-per-view and PLA review shows. We'll have one for World's End coming up. Also, interviews with some of the biggest and best talent in WWE and AEW and TNA. You can get all of that right here on the YouTube channel. So please hit subscribe. If you are listening live today, thank you so much. And hello to everybody who's in our live chat. Sean is in there. Sean says here, what's up, guys? I've missed the last two shows. Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to both of you and to the chat. Zach is one of the best out there, and I'm glad to call him a friend. Appreciate you, Sean. It's right back at you, man, for sure. Right back at you. But we got the live chat open, so get on in there, mix it on up. If you guys have questions, comments, rants, raves, whatever, you can drop them in there. I'll try to get to as many as we can. If you want to make sure that we get to yours, drop it via a super chat, and that way we make sure to read all super chats on the show. If you're able to throw a little tip in the tip jar for us, we certainly appreciate it. It would help out us and the channel. So thank you in advance for that. So, Blake, let's talk Gunther, because we spent a lot of time talking about John Cena, a little bit about Gunther during our Cena retirement show over the weekend. But Gunther really had his moment on Raw this week. I mean, I was looking for a strong follow-up segment to what was an extremely clean victory and definitive victory over Cena at Saturday Night's Main Event. I was in the camp of, I like that finish. Liked it a lot. But just like anything else in wrestling, it's all in the follow-up, right? So I needed to see, Gunther take that opportunity and run with it. And I thought he did a pretty good job on Monday. The heat was there. He didn't do too much. Wasn't over the top. It wasn't too cute. And I thought it really hit the right notes on what Gunther is going to be moving forward. What did you think of his first night post retiring John Cena?
You hit on the thing I was going to bring up, and I think I like the brevity of it more than anything. Like, it wasn't a guy who came out and had to cut a 20-minute promo to somehow explain what he did. We all know what he did. Like, there's no reason to just sit here and just try to go into some long-winded excuse or reasoning as to why this matters and what this means moving forward. Like, he just came out and said, I made John Cena give up. And that's all that had to be said. Like, there's nothing else to say. Like, that is the most impactful line if he did sit there for 30 minutes and go into all this stuff. That's the most impactful line, no matter what you say. He is the person who made John Cena finally give up. And so I love that part of it. Was just, again, you didn't have to overdo it here. You didn't have to turn this into, some big angle where someone comes out and interrupts him and all of a sudden, like, you didn't have to do any of that. Just let it sit for a little while. And so they do that. And then, of course, it leads to the thing with AJ Styles, and we all know where this is headed. I just thought it was exactly what it needed to be. And again, I would say my only concern going into it was that you were going to have this where, like, maybe he comes out, says something, another babyface comes out, all of a sudden you're charting the course, and you're just kind of running through it too quickly without just letting it sit there and let the fans hate this guy and just be the ultimate prick. And that's kind of what he's going to be moving forward. And now he has his sights set on the next guy. And yeah, like, I thought it was great.
The audience really reacted to him in a way that I wasn't sure whether they would or not, because the end of that match and the finish with Triple H walking out and, the audience booing him and Triple H talking on the post show about how he was his decision and all this stuff to do the finish that they did. You really wonder, like, whether or not, like, the heat that Gunther is supposed to get actually falls on him and not on, like, WWE as the promotion or Triple H as the booker, right? Like, that heat on television needs to be on Gunther. And I was interested to see, like, how the audience would react to him. And, it worked. It worked. I mean, he was just vociferously booed and hated and leaned into that perfectly. And now I think he's set up not only, like, a nice run, whatever it's going to be, Royal Rumble or some kind of championship match, but he also, has other people that he can retire to that are on the horizon. AJ Styles, he crossed paths with him on Monday night. We know Brock Lesnar is out there. We talked a lot about him on the John Cena post retirement show that we did over the weekend. So I think this is a good sign for Gunther, a good sign for WWE. And, if there was any kind of, like, oh man, we made the wrong call about having Cena lose the final match, to me, this promo was, like, it just told you otherwise. It just told you, nope, stay the course on this. This is the right idea.
Yeah, no, I mean, I always say, it's like, how do people react? Like I said the other night, I'm like, hey, the way they reacted chasing the man in the parking lot and all that, that's not going to be the norm. But, like, if you can get the fans doing that every single time when he comes out in the building, that's as good as you can ask for, I think, coming out of this. And again, he's going to take aim at some of their favorites, and it'll be different settings, right? Like, AJ Styles is a fan favorite anywhere you put him. You kind of have a situation where, you're going to have Brock Lesnar will be a favorite in Minnesota if they do that at SummerSlam next year. But, like, I just think you're going to be able to play around with this dynamic so much. And, so I thought it was, I don't want to say, like, it's hard for things to be perfect, but, like, it was about as good as it gets, because I just didn't think they overcomplicated it. And sometimes I think it's very easy to do in wrestling.
What I like, the final thing I'll say that I liked about it was that, like, WWE especially does this. Like, they just beat you over the head repeatedly with the same, whatever narrative is they want to get out of it. This guy's a bad guy, or even, back in the day, CM Punk, when they started calling him, like, the pipe bomb throwing superstar or something. It's just like, okay, you just made all that not cool by like naming him that way, and, like, just, again, beating us over the head. And I liked that, like, because of the brevity in this promo, the moment just kind of spoke for itself. Like, he made John Cena say, I quit. Gunther touched on that, and then just kind of let the chips fall where they may. And the audience was there where he needed him to be, as far as, like, just being really against him. And I think it would have been, I don't know, it would have been fine to hear him go on for 5 minutes about it. But I think the moment itself was a big one. You treated it as a big one on Saturday night. And so why not, push more chips in on that? And I'm glad that they kind of let it breathe and let it marinate instead of just telling you over and over again, this is how you should feel. This is how you should feel. This is how you should feel. I think they trusted that, hey, it was a good angle. We got a good reaction on Saturday. Or, well, we didn't get a good reaction, but we got the reaction we wanted.
Yep.
Let's just lean into that. Let's lean into that and not force it. And I thought that was a smart call too.
Yep, agreed. Good stuff.
What do you think happens with Gunther now? Well, we talked a little bit about this on Sunday, but the Royal Rumble's coming up. But Braun Breaker is a heel, who's getting like a big push in the championship picture opposite CM Punk. Is Gunther kind of destined to just be a guy that's behind Braun Breaker in the pecking order? Is he somebody that maybe could win the Royal Rumble and challenge Cody? What? Or is he just all right? I'm gonna just pick off other guys right now, AJ Styles, and maybe I'll do something with Brock or something like that. Like, what matches are you lining up for him to take advantage of the momentum that he has right now?
Yeah, it's almost like you want to have the option of, it's a good thing to have Gunther every week at your disposal. But with the way they're kind of portraying him now moving forward, I almost feel like it's like, I don't think you want to have him every week. Like, I think you sort of want to bring him in as the guy that's like, he's the closer, right? Like, he's the guy that, again, let's say AJ Styles wins a few more matches in a row and, eventually drops the tag titles, but no, I'm coming in to finish you. Like, I am the guy who's going to just walk in and you're like, oh, yeah, there he is. Like, he's just, again, walking in with the confidence, knowing that he's retired John Cena. It does feel strange, though, that, think about why he was gone. Like, he's gone because he loses to Punk at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
You haven't really had to revisit that yet. But, like, I feel like at some point you have to revisit that. And I think that a lot of that's going to depend on when they want to go with Breakker as the champion. And there's the Rollins stuff too, where you can revisit that with Rollins for Gunther, because Rollins, you would think, is going to come back as a babyface. So there's a lot to work with here. And, like, you could legitimately get the next year out of Gunther without even having him in the world title picture. I don't think that's going to happen, but you could. Like, you could push him another year to where the guy doesn't even need the championship because he can ride the coattails of what he just did and use that, again, for the retirement tours, for whether it's Styles, whether it's Brock, whether potentially it's Jericho, like, so he could do all those and have plenty to work with and not really need anything title-based, right? He could, I'll call him the Undertaker, but, like, I feel like Taker was a great example of, like, all of a sudden you've molded yourself in a different way to be someone who just doesn't have to be in the title picture. But, I think that's going to be, that's an interesting twist that I'm curious to see how they approach that, because on one hand, he feels like the kind of guy who not having him in the title picture just feels weird because, long reigning Intercontinental Champion, dominant world champion. But at the same time, like, this new little wrinkle that they've added gives him plenty of fuel to not even need to be near the championship for a while. And maybe that's your big match you're building to late next year or further, is Gunther versus Breakker, right?
Yeah.
Because I do think, honestly, like, eventually they're not going to have any choice with Breakker. Like, he is more so than Gunther. It's going to be much easier to turn Breakker than it is Gunther at this point. So, like, Breakker's just so good that I just think eventually you're going to have to turn him. And that's probably going to be the story of the Vision, right? Is he's the breakout star. You got stuff to work with coming out of, like, once that happens, and whether, I don't think it's going to be anytime soon, but so yeah, you got a lot of options.
Sean in the live chat here says Gunther needs to feel special. Definitely spread him out with good, dominant promos here and there. Yeah, it's kind of like back in the what was it, 2005, 2006 Undertaker, where you saw Undertaker every single week on SmackDown. Every week it was the same entrance over and over, and it was long, and it was just like, okay, and it, like, that it was a little less special when you did it over and over and over and over and over again. And I think the same thing could could happen with Gunther. It's not the same kind of thing because Gunther's not playing this dead man character and whatnot. So it's a little bit different in that regard. I get it. It is more Brock Lesnar like, but less is more. Less is more. And I it seems like they understand that, but we'll see here in a minute. We'll see.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sean. Speaking of the Vision, we got a big angle with the Vision. We got the big reveal on Raw in the main event segment. Austin Theory, the masked man who's been helping out the Vision. They didn't know it was him, or so they say, at least at this point. So he had the big reveal, and we now know too that Brock Lesnar will be facing CM Punk, or Braun Breaker will be facing CM Punk for the World Heavyweight Championship on January 5th. What do you make of how all this went down, Blake, in the final seconds of Raw with Theory and Logan Paul and some confusion, Breaker just spearing Punk out of his shoes, like a lot of balls in the air. Did they catch him?
A lot happening for sure. Yeah, I mean, just as Sean said, I think we both thought the same thing. Like, Punk's promo was exactly what you want to see from CM Punk right now. I thought it was about as straightforward and effective as he's had in a while. It didn't dance around the issue, and it shouldn't, right? Because it's not just Braun Breaker doing what he did to him. It's mentioning his wife, and these are all the things that I think that's where, like, Punk being so good is he understands those tiny little things that really do make an impact. And, again, let's say it's someone else and, like, you don't even acknowledge the line of a guy saying he's going to come after your wife or whatever. Like, come on. Like, you can't just skip over that. But it was a very determined Punk who, again, had every kind of reason to say what he said. And I think, even like the Breaker thing at the end where, like, you don't need Braun Breaker talking into a microphone. You just need a guy who is saying what he wants to say. He doesn't care if there's a mic or not. He's taunting his opponent, like all those kind of things. And so this is, hey, I am really looking forward to this. And I think there's plenty of ways they could go, and we'll talk about it, I'm sure, before we get to that January 5th Raw. But there's a lot of fun ideas to work with of how they execute this thing. But, the Austin Theory reveal, obviously not a big surprise if you're online. We kind of all, we kind of all expected it to be Theory. And I know people like, did he get a big pop? No, but like, I think that's also where you have to remember, like, you're putting Austin Theory in this spot, kind of knowing that you basically booked him as a chump for the longest time, and it's it is kind of a spot where now you're taking the risk of reintroducing someone to your audience who you did not book effectively at all, and he was just simply a background player. And whatever reason that is, I don't know, but I think they clearly have more confidence now in giving him this opportunity. I think you're definitely going to see the Theory and Logan Paul tag team combination, probably at some point, if you think about just the dynamic, but there again, just because Theory's revealed as the masked man on Monday doesn't mean you can't keep running with this idea of someone else also playing the masked man role. And so I think they've given themselves a lot of creative ideas to work with here. And if you just think about that group of four, Breaker, Bronson Reed, Logan Paul, and Austin Theory, Zach, that's four guys you're building up to be the future. Realistically, like, these are four guys you're putting, and that's a lot of talk has been on how old Cody is, how old Punk is, how old Roman is, like Drew McIntyre. You just keep going down the line. LA Knight, Jay, like, hey, these are four guys that you're kind of putting in a spot now as this group of the Vision for the future. That's the whole name. Like, it makes a lot of sense. And so I'm okay with it here in, step one of the big reveal. So
I'm too. I think, especially when you look at it as step one, like, this is the first step. This is chapter what, like 2? If your chapter 1 is him interfering in War Games, like, this is chapter 2. We now know who it is. He has a different look, different demeanor. I think that's all good. And by him, Austin Theory. So I was fine with the reveal there. I think I'll get to Punk in a minute. For Austin Theory, there's a good chance, Blake, that he is already like coming into this like the fourth wheel in that faction.
Right.
I mean, Braun Breaker's more important. Logan Paul is Logan Paul. Bronson Reed is just by definition in a bit different place because of his size and because of the kind of push that he gets. So like, I don't, we may be in a situation here where this is not even a role that is made for Theory to swim in. It's more like, we need somebody in the division that can fight these guys and can lose ahead of the bigger matches. Like, I think that's a possibility. I think that's a possibility here when they're looking at like, well, we can't beat Bronson Reed all the time, and we don't want to beat Logan Paul all the time. And obviously Breaker's our guy. We need to protect him. We got to have somebody in here that can do the favors to help build some of these bigger matches up. Like, that might be Austin Theory's role in this. And that's not a bad role. If I'm Austin Theory, I'm like, yep, like sign me up. I'll make the most of it and try to get over, because to your point, like, this is the biggest opportunity that he's had in a while. Even if he's kind of the loser of the group, he's still next to Paul Heyman. He's still next to Braun Breaker. He's still working with the top baby faces on Raw. So I think it's a good move. And I also think it's smart that WWE pulled the ripcord on like the reveal, because I feel like the longer they would have gone on with like, oh my God, the masked man, who is it? Like, the higher expectations get for who that person actually is. And since they knew it wasn't going to be anybody of like tremendous significance, you just do it, get out of the way, and now there's no more mystery. So I thought that was a smart move too.
Right, because I mean, you can only play up the Seth Rollins thing so much. Like, everyone knows it's not Seth Rollins.
Exactly.
Like, yeah. And you've kind of positioned it that way, where even though that's kind of what you played with in the story the first couple of weeks, like, everyone knows it's not Rollins. So you gotta separate that, and that's where, again, having a reveal like this, get it done, and just continue to kind of move on to the next chapter of the story. And I think that's where, again, you saw the different looks from, Breaker and Paul, and, that's where I think the whole fascination comes in with how they tell the story moving forward. So,
as far as CM Punk goes, I agree with you. I thought that promo was maybe the best promo that he's cut since he's come back to WWE. I mean, some of the Rollins stuff has been good for sure, but that was just like, damn, okay. Like, that's like an old school babyface promo. Like, I'm going to kind of rip on the heel, and I'm going to defend my wife, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be really confident about winning the world title. Like, there was no hemming and hawing, or I'm not sure, or Breaker's this big bad guy. It was just like, no, like, you can't handle CM Punk in 2025, let alone 2011. I thought that was a good line. I think it also just sold you on the match, because going in to Punk and Breaker on the 5th in a big promoted match like that, I'm thinking, okay, probably going to put Breaker over. But when Punk goes out there and talks the way that he did, with as much confidence as he did, it kind of makes you, or at least it makes me go, okay, well, maybe not. Like, maybe it's not the time. And so I thought that alone just added a little more sizzle to that match, because when a babyface puts it all on the line like that, it's rare that they don't deliver, and Punk really laid it on thick. And I thought that will help when the time comes for them to wrestle on January 5th. Like, I think we'll look back at this promo and go, that's the one that made me like buy this.
Yeah. And that's why he's so good. It's like the way he can tee it up like that. He can just sort of tee it up like nobody else. And look, we always talk about the interferences and all this stuff. Like, I don't know if they can help themselves on January 5th. I really don't think they're going to help themselves. But the way they're building it up, it should feel like it's one-on-one. Because, again, you kind of had Punk call out Breakers, though. Hey, you got to have all these guys around you. If you want to start to twist that a little bit, like, have Breaker come out by himself. Like, have, and that's, I don't think they're going to do it, but something to think about.
Something to think about for sure. You mentioned it, and I want to give it some time here. Braun Breaker off mic to Punk as the show went off the air, just talking to him like, just while Punk's like writhing in pain or whatever, he's selling, and Breaker leans over and just goes, "Hey, we were talking about my family like that again. You'll never walk correctly on your own 2 feet." And it's like, damn, there you go. That's it right there. Like, that is, you got to find a way to take that energy and take that kind of like aura and authenticity of in that moment, not with a microphone, not like playing to the hard camera or anything, but just Bron Breakker being Bron Breakker. Like, I thought that was his best mic work to date, and it wasn't even on a microphone.
Yep, I agree. Like, he just gets it, man, and that's why like he's just a natural. And I know it's like, well, look at the family he comes from, but he just totally understands like all those kind of little things too. I said it. Like, I think that's people sometimes I don't think realize like sometimes wrestling can just be the combination of how many little things you're good at. Like, it's just put all those together. Like, it doesn't have to be just one big thing you're great at. Sure, that helps. Like, but it can just be the combination of all these little tiny awareness type things that you get when it comes to like what makes it effective. And he's just like he's been great in this role, and that's why I said I don't know how long it's going to take. I mean, as long as you keep having like interference and all that, like you can run with the heel stuff for a while, but there is going to come a point, I think easily within the next year, where it's going to be a challenge for people not to want to just cheer this guy. It's already happening some. It's just not, it's because of who he's aligned to. But when that breakup from Heyman happens at some point down the road, it will be a memorable one. Can you imagine Bron Breakker spearing Paul Heyman?
Oh, man, dude.
Heyman has to retire.
Paul Heyman is going to be like,
tour.
To Paul Heyman is going to be to Bron Breakker like Bobby Heenan was to like Hulk Hogan. Just like the manager guy who's constantly trying to like just beat the champion. Like, they could have a dynamic. I mean, it's hard to live up to that dynamic. Obviously, I don't know that it'll be even Steven as far as that goes. But you get what I'm trying to say. Like, the idea is the same. But yeah, man. I mean, whenever you have Breakker just spear Heyman out of his shoes or through the guardrail or something like that. Oh yeah, that's Pop City for sure. We got Sean in the chat who says here, I think Heyman, truly trusts that Austin Theory can make this work. Theory should get rid of the beard, but how young will he look? Yeah, I mean, he looks young anyway, even with the beard, I would say. So yeah, and then Sean also says, I hope that is not all they're thinking. This can help Theory feel like a bigger star. Yeah. So that leads me to my final question on this topic. Do you think that Theory, like, are you buying Sean's premise here of like, this is a push for Theory, or is it, we need somebody to be here because these other guys are so important? Like, which side of the ledger are you on that? Because I mean, I could see it both ways, but it certainly is a crowded field if you're Theory right now and you're like, okay, I'm in the vision. That's great, but it's crowded. You got Bron Breakker there. You got, Bronson Reed, Logan Paul. I mean, it's stocked with young talent that we know WWE is behind, and now you add a fourth to that.
I think if you look at the differences of how they're handling what they decided to do with Theory versus what they decided to do with Grayson Waller, I think it shows you there is a drastic difference. And, I mean, the New Day Grayson Waller stuff has just been terrible. Like, it's gone nowhere. It's entertaining at times, but like, it just goes nowhere. And I think, at least from this standpoint, you are putting someone who, let's call it what it is, was labeled as the Vince McMahon guy. You kind of give him a little bit of that reset. Now, like, Theory's a Paul Heyman guy. Kind of felt like he was before, but, again, Theory was just the guy that Vince went all the way in on before he was ousted. And you had that rub people the wrong way. And I think now it's like you're a little far removed from that to where you can kind of give this guy a sink or swim type scenario where it's like, hey, if you can't thrive in this particular setting around all these guys, and maybe that's the point. They don't want to necessarily have him be the standout guy. They just want to see how he interacts with
Yeah.
3 other guys who have been positioned as top guys. I mean, Breaker is becoming the top guy. Logan Paul has been they trust Logan Paul as much as they trust, Gunther maybe. Like, I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
it's just clear. Like they trust this guy and what he brings to the table. And I can't say they're that wrong about that. Like every time I see Logan Paul, you may get annoyed sometimes and all that, but I can't say that my opinion on Logan Paul as a wrestler has ever gone backwards. It usually just goes forward. And Bronson Reed's beating Roman Reigns. So like there's
Right.
just I think it shows you that they're at least setting Theory up for something. And again, that's where I think you can tell the story here. Let's say Theory's the masked man. All right, here's one scenario. He's in the group. All right, he's working with these guys for the next 4 months. And then Seth Rollins comes back. And what do you know? Theory was the plant, right? He was the plant. Now it's Rollins and Theory working together, and that's a direction you could go because
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe they think this is a guy that has the same vision because Heyman brought that up. Maybe he doesn't have the same vision. Maybe he's the guy that Rollins has sent to sort of infiltrate the group, and now you can play that story out. So I think any way you slice it here, Theory's going to feel like he's an important domino in the story. But whether or not do I think he's ever going to be like the guy? No. But I think there's a way to position him to where he can feel like a very important piece of this puzzle. But I think I think you have work to do to kind of remove some of that previous, I don't know, if baggage is the right word, but some of that audience perception of what they had of Theory before this right here.
I think it is. I mean, there is baggage there for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
last we saw him, he was the loser guy in a tag team with Grayson Waller. That's
Yeah.
the last people have seen of Austin Theory. So I think it's right to frame it as like he's kind of a project. He's a project now, and I don't know that I'd be pushing all my chips in on him if I were a betting person in this regard, but weirder things have happened, that's for sure. Sean says here is from to the finish of Breaker versus Punk. They better not screw that match up like they did with Oba Femi. Give us a finish. So we'll be previewing this match in full on next week's show, most likely, given that's the holidays after that, and there may not be a show again prior to the new year. So we may give our full predictions on this next week. But if you're gonna put odds on it, Blake, 50-50 that it's a clean finish or less than that?
I'd go less. I just don't see it. I don't see it at all, guys. Like I think there's absolutely going to be some sort of shenanigans. I mean, how it plays out, I don't know, but I know. I mean, they are building this up to be a big show, but I just am like I said, the only way they could control this, maybe in the other direction, would be simply if Punk's challenge to Breaker gets through, and that was the basis of Punk's promo, is that you cannot do this by yourself. It's a challenge. Like, can you actually show up and do it yourself? And I think, again, that's where how quick do they want this story to play out? Because you could absolutely do the thing here where the Vision costs Breaker accidentally, right? And it's an easy trope to play into, and you got to plant some seeds of doubt and all that stuff. But I find it unlikely that it is a one-on-one match and that's it. And there's no one else in play here. That's not been the WWE way. If they decide to do that, then I think it's a matter of, I think the problem here is that I don't think Breaker's winning. And so I think that's where you have to decide,
Right.
If you're going to beat him, how do you beat him? And I think that's a big decision.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Reading the tea leaves, I'm with you. I don't see how this ends in a clean finish. I don't want to make everybody upset, but it's just not going to happen. I just don't see it. And I think when you read the tea leaves even further, and you're like, hey, that massive LA Knight attack a couple weeks ago, that was kind of like out of the blue, why all of a sudden? There's an answer right there where you get LA Knight coming back and helping Punk fend off the Vision, and Punk sneaks out a win because of that. Like, I think that's a reasonable roadmap for them to navigate down at this point. Not what I'd be advocating for, because I think the match at this point is going to be built up where people want to see like an actual outcome, and I just don't think they're going to get one here. And that part is a little bit disappointing.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We're going to preview all this next week ahead of our a bit of a holiday break here. So tune in then. We'll have a full preview of that show and obviously a lot more. This is Pro Wrestling Weekly. You guys, thanks so much for being here. Appreciate it. I got the live chat open. We're here with this show weekly on Thursdays. Usually we're live on the channel here at about 12 Eastern. Today we're a little bit later because of scheduling conflict, but we're here and we're glad you're here too. If you can, hit like on the video, give it the thumbs up. We'd appreciate that. It helps us out, helps us reach new eyes and continue to grow the channel and this community that we're growing here. So thank you in advance for that. Let's pivot, Blake, to AEW and the return of MJF. MJF returns at Holiday Bash, the Dynamite special 3-hour episode of Dynamite this week. And he comes in and kind of makes a big splash, jumps right on into the main event, cashes in the contract that I'm sure everybody remembered that he had, and is now in the World Championship match at World's End, along with Swerve Strickland, Adam Page, and the champion Samoa Joe. That's now a fatal 4-way match. What'd you think, Blake? What'd you think of MJF returning, how he returned, and just him being back in general?
I mean, I like it because I think it adds I think it adds to the match for sure. I mean, this is what you're building towards, and when you've got these 4 in there, I feel like it. Let's say you left it a triple threat, okay? And this is why I like the fact that they brought MJF back now. I mean, it feels very predictable as a triple threat if it's like, all right, well, Swerve or Hangman, one of them is going to accidentally cost the other one, and then we're going to reignite the hatred between those two somehow, and like there's going to be that uneasiness, and Joe retains. Like, I feel like it's as simple as that. Could still play out that way. But the fact that you're using the cash-in for MJF, all of a sudden, like, importance-wise, this feels a lot more important. Because why do it, unless you feel like you're in a position where you're going to win the title? And so I think it adds a lot more of that interest. And, he mentioned kind of the historical aspect of World's End. And, like, so I think they did a good job of tying it all together. The promo was the promo. MJF is MJF. Like, he's gonna say things that get you talking, and but I thought, and this is where I said it with Gunther, and it's different, but that is where like the value of having a guy who's not there all the time. I still think that holds so much weight in this era. When you think about how many hours of TV these two are producing every single week, and so when MJF comes out, he's a big deal. And, I think that's the effect I have right now. You're down Ospreay, you just got Swerve back. The other bigger stars are kind of situated with the Continental Classic and all that. So I just think that's what always feels different about MJF to me. He feels like a big deal. And I feel like that's credit to him, credit to AEW. Now, I know there have been ups and downs along the way, whether it's the Adam Cole stuff or, elsewhere. But I think that he comes into this feeling still special again. And I think it's going to add to the match, because I always say, Zach, that's where like I probably am different than from some AEW fans. Like, do I want the match to be great? Yes. But do I want the story to be better? Yes. Like I'm more fascinated with the story of it all. And I think that's where I think, and look, Sean just brought it up in the chat. Sean says, I don't love the 4-way, but I think he's winning, which I'm mixed on. But I think that's the reaction I have of like, I think it makes you consider all the options now for how this thing's going to play out. And to me, there are more interesting options with MJF involved than if he wasn't involved in this.
You have convinced me to change my mind a little bit, because I think I was considerably lower on this than you were going in.
Yeah.
But just because, for a couple of different reasons. One is I thought that they actually had a triple threat here that made sense. Like I almost never advocate for triple threat matches. Almost never. Like I almost always think that it's a crutch to try to spice a match up, and really it just shows that you don't have a good enough singles match to go with at that time. That's just generally speaking. That's not across the board. There's certainly triple threats out there that make perfect sense. This was one of them. I thought this made a lot of sense. Samoa Joe as champion had beef with both Paige and Swerve Strickland. There's history between all three of those guys. You've got the history with Swerve and Paige. Like, I thought that was like a really just kind of a fun triangle. And so yesterday I'm like, you had a triple threat that was workable. Right. And now you toss MJF into the mix and you make it a fatal 4-way. To your point, though, and I do agree with this, and so it's definitely worth taking into consideration. The fact that MJF is in that match now, it does keep everything open as far as like what could happen. You know, is MJF because I just would assume that if the triple threat was just going to be Joe retaining somehow, just like you said, and now there is like that added element of, well, maybe it's going to be MJF. You know, so I think that does help it, even though I think you had a perfectly good triple threat that you just kind of threw away in the trash for MJF. Here's the other thing, man, and I feel like I'm on an island on this one, so I'm curious, it's your take or anybody in the chat. Like the MJF shtick, it's kind of getting like okay, like it's fine to me. I think that it's lost some of its edge. I think it's because it's so like ha now, and it's kind of like he's winking at the crowd when he does it. It just doesn't land for me like it used to. Like I don't think that there's any heat behind it like there used to be. It's more like I just get the sense that he's backstage going, all right, what can I say to get an ooh and ah out of the crowd? I don't care whether they like really invest in what I'm saying, but I want that like, ooh, can I believe that he went there? Oh, he called him P. Diddy. Like, you know, am I crazy? Am I crazy that this thing has run its course a bit?
So I think what made MJF so different when AEW first launched was that if you were comparing it to like WWE at the time and just how boring and mind-numbing their promos were during that period when AEW launched. Very scripted, same thing. It felt like no matter who it was. What made him different was that he immediately came out and felt like someone like, okay, this is what we want. We want a Stone Cold, or we want like, someone who basically doesn't give a damn and will say whatever they want to say. Even if, again, we all know it's, proved and all that. But that made him different vibe-wise than what you were getting elsewhere. And that's why AEW, I thought, that's why AEW existed, was because it was a great alternative to what you were getting at the time. That's why you had all the momentum, I think, out of the gate. But, like, it's wild to believe this, Zach, but, like, we're about to go into, year 7? I mean, AEW launched in 2019. It's almost 2026. So, like, we're going on, like, into the 7th year here.
Wow.
And that is so wild to think about. But it's like, we've seen this a lot. We've seen this same promo so many times. But I think, look, it's why I said a minute ago with Gunther. I'm like, the way you keep someone special, and I know I just kind of am contradicting myself because I said MJF feels special because he just came back, and he does right now. But if he does this every single week for the next 4 months, there's not going to be anything different about it. Like, it's just going to be the same thing, right? And so, to me, and this is why I think you can argue, like, in his defense, is he's doing it for the moment. He's doing it for what's happening now. He's not necessarily doing it for me to look back 2 months from now and say, oh, remember that great MJF promo. He's doing it for, again, at the time, the fans in the arena, what's going to make the biggest splash. Now, that could be that's a much more short-term thing than maybe long-term. And so it's a balancing act. But I think, like you said, I'm not going to push back on the idea that there is an over reliance on this same trope of pick something that, and I mean, it's different, right? But could you somewhat compare it to the Max Caster effect of
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
rap Max Caster has to put out? He's got to have something that is that defining moment within that 30 seconds that is going to make it stand out, right? That was the thing for the longest time. And it worked I mean, the Acclaim became one of the biggest stars in the company at that one point, you could argue. But eventually it's like, okay, I've heard that. Yep. All right. That's just the next iteration of that, right? And so it's a fine line. And I think I do have the confidence that MJF can walk that fine line because we've seen him do it. But but I'm not going to disagree with you and say there are times where you're like, I mean, yeah, okay. Like, it's just, yep, that's MJF. And we just go to the next thing. So
I think what stands out to me too is that apparently there's a high-speed car chase going on outside.
MJF has sent the authorities to get Zack.
With MJF, I just think that he's so talented, but like when he leans into the sticky stuff, I'm like, yeah, you don't need to do that. Like the money in you is not like Max Caster. It was like, okay, that was his peak, that's it.
Yeah.
Like that's as high as
True.
he goes, and that's great. I mean, that's a great spot to be. People are going to remember the Acclaim for a long, long time. So it's not a knock on him, but if you're MJF, you have to know that you're more talented than that and have a lot more depth than that as a performer and as a character. And that depth to me is what draws big time money, big time feuds, a lot of eyeballs, a lot of interest. Like MJF compares himself a lot to Roddy Piper, and I think that there's a lot of Roddy Piper in him. But Roddy Piper wasn't a sticky guy. He was not a guy that came out there and kind of did his thing. His thing from week to week, month to month, year to year changed, depending on who he was working with and what he was going for. Like it changed. And I hope MJF finds a little bit of that. I also think, and I know I'm sounding like the get off my lawn wrestling guy, but like, I just think it's important for MJF to kind of either be a babyface or be a heel. I think it's really, really hard for him in particular to walk the line in the middle and kind of go back and forth because fans don't know what to think. Am I supposed to cheer him running down two of the top baby faces in the company who I love in Swerve Strickland and Adam Page? I like MJF, but like that's kind of weird. And so I don't know what to do. And then, but like he's really railing on Samoa Joe and I don't like him, but he called us names too at the same time. So it's like he's all over the place as far as that goes. And I think it makes it really hard to invest deeply in what he does because he's just kind of little this, little that, little this, little that. And I don't know. Again, I'm trying not to be like old wrestling guy, but like I think that matters for some talent more so than others. Brock Lesnar, he can pull it off. He can kind of swing this way and he can swing that way. And okay. I don't think MJF is in that spot. And I think he's better for the company if he's either a heel that everybody hates or, kind of this jerky guy that people really like and just stick with that.
Sometimes it's easy to be like, what can get me the biggest pop?
It is, yeah.
Like, it's a double-edged sword because if you're the heel, you're not necessarily looking for the biggest pop. You're looking for, what should you be saying as the heel to make people much more invested in the line and how it affects the baby faces versus just the line itself. And I think that's where the P. Diddy line. It's like
exactly. Yeah.
I'm much more thinking as he says that about, wow, MJF really just brought that up versus, man, don't say that about Swerve. Like,
exactly.
There's a clear difference. So, yeah.
Yeah, that for sure. And I want to just finish this conversation by saying MJF being back for AEW is a very good thing for the company. Like he is a big star for them. the show, I think, needs some star power with Ospreay gone and, like kind of Moxley off doing his own thing, like,
Yeah.
and Tony Storm not, there, but not in the world title picture. Like, I think MJF is a really strong act to have around. Yeah. And I just hope they use him a little bit better, because I think he is so valuable, and that's why it's important that they get it right. What have you thought about the Continental Classic so far? I mean, we're almost done with it here. We got about another week or so left to go. I think a lot of the names are that are involved at the end here are names that we kind of thought would be. But overall, I mean, how are you grading this thing out so far?
Yeah, like you said, it's hard to believe it's like almost done. And yeah, I mean, I think, match wise, there's never been a doubt, like we said, that this thing was not going to deliver. I think there are hindrances to this format, because I think it's the matter of you can only tell so many stories that feel like they're kind of the overarching theme. But I think they've done a decent job of that. Like we said, Moxley was going to be a clear focus here. Claudio being at the top right now, that feels like something you're going to play into here down the stretch. Obviously, the Okada Takeshita stuff, they continue to kind of push that forward. I think the best match I've seen at this point probably is Fletcher and Speedball. I mean, that was
that was fantastic.
My goodness, like that was something. And I think, it's too where it's like maybe there's a different thought, but I think just by having Speedball win, like it makes it a bigger match, because, you realize that prevents Kyle Fletcher from now being there, and you've got this 4-way tie or whatever it is at the moment. And so, yeah, like I think that was, to me, has been the highlight so far, just from a match standpoint. But, things are getting interesting down the stretch when you look at, again, the remaining matches they have, and what you still kind of have to work with. I think that's going to, factor into how this thing plays out. And so there's been good matches. I think you've got some good suspense, at least down the stretch, even though I feel like we're heading in a direction that seems clear, but we'll find out.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the match of the tournament so far has definitely been Mike Bailey and Fletcher. And I think Fletcher, though, has had like 3 of the top 4 matches, I think, that have been him. And so that's a feather in his cap. He's been really strong in this. But the fact that you still have Moxley there, he's hovering. The fact that you got Claudio around, he's hovering. Konosuke Takeshita is there. Okada is there. Fletcher is there too. And a lot of others at 6 points in the Gold League. Yeah. I think the best thing about this tournament this year is that even though you had some idea of like where the puzzle was going to go at the end, I think that like Tony Khan has been able to keep the intrigue up long enough with how he booked it, where you got to consider multiple scenarios at this point in time. Yeah. I think sometimes even in the G1, when I watch that, it's like, you get through like half the tournament or 60% of the way through the tournament, and then it's, well, we kind of know where things are going here. Right. So it's hard to like really, really buy in. And I think Tony Khan has done a really nice job of kind of booking this thing, keeping as many pieces alive for as long as you can, in an authentic way. And to me, like outside of the match quality, which of course, as you said, has been money, it's the fact that like there still are so many different potential outcomes that I think has kept it more interesting than it has been this late in years past.
And that's always a challenge, because like, I mean, for me, who's not a math guy, to think about trying to figure out how to incorporate the math of this kind of round robin tournament, like it is a nightmare. And so again, like and that's where too, like you have a Jack Perry being subbed in for Darby, like they're just, it can be a logistical issue for sure. And so I'm with you. I think having this kind of suspense late and knowing kind of the matches you've got left, it plays into your favor if you're trying to make this feel like it's a meaningful, tournament and you're going to get the most out of it. Because again, anybody can just have a tournament where you just put 6 wrestlers on each side, best man wins, great. But for me, you got to give me some drama. You got to give me some suspense. And I think they built it up that way where, you've got 4 guys in the Gold League. You've got 4 guys in the the Blue League that feel like, okay, I can see all these potential combinations maybe playing out based on the stories that they've told. So, yeah.
And look out for John Moxley. That was a babyface promo last night on Dynamite.
It was.
Straight up. So we'll see. We'll see where that goes. But yeah, I think that's definitely somebody to watch. Definitely somebody to watch. All right, let's pivot. Let's talk some of the news of the week. And let's start with NXT, which is a promotion we don't get to too often here on Pro Wrestling Weekly, but we're talking about this week. Blake Monroe, formerly Mariah May in AEW, loses the NXT Women's North American Championship to Thea Hale on what was surely a botched finish. You had a spot in the match where Thea Hale springboards off the ropes, almost for like a mini coffin drop onto Blake Monroe, and she makes the pin, and Blake Monroe just doesn't kick out on time. I don't know if she was like, the wind knocked out of her. At first I was like, oh my God, did she get concussed? Like, is she like knocked out? But she didn't really get her head hit on that in watching it back again. So I think it was more like you got the wind knocked out of you kind of thing. And you know how it is when that happens. Like, you're kind of immobile for a while. That was my sense on what happened. And so not a huge story in terms of like, oh, it's the NXT Women's North American Championship. It changed hands. But it made me think about, like, is Blake Monroe in the right place? Like, she's been, I don't know, I'm sure the checks are nice. I'm sure that is all good. But boy, does she feel like an afterthought. And now even more so than I would have said going into this week.
Yeah, I'm curious what they think of her, because it just felt like such a slam dunk. And the way they started off, like, you could tell. I mean, they were clearly positioning her as like the thing, right, of NXT. But I think that's always the problem I have, is you're bringing someone in, you're positioning her as the new it thing, and then you just put her in the secondary title picture. Like, eventually she drops down into the secondary, and I don't think that helps. I don't care if you're trying to elevate a title or whatever. It just doesn't help. And so I know, like, I think there will be some overreaction to this, and that, okay, this is just, come on, they clearly have but like, clear accident, clearly not the way it was supposed to go. But I think we are kind of close now to where if they don't bring her up pretty soon, I don't know, man. Like, I'm just kind of looking at it and feeling like, I don't know what their plan is, and maybe there's just something she's not grasping that they feel like she needs to grasp. I'm not sure, honestly. So,
yeah, I kind of feel the same way. Like, initially you could defend it, you could, or at least I did when she initially came up and went to NXT. It's like, it's crowded on the main roster. I mean, you just brought up Stephanie Vaquera, you just brought up Julia at that time. You still have Becky Lynch and Rhea and Io, and there's still all those matches you got to do with those guys. AJ Lee is there now. So it's like, it's crowded for her if she were to get dropped into that madness. So at the time I was kind of like, oh, well, if I'm her and the money's still good, like, yeah, I'll be the focus of NXT for, a year or so, like that. Okay, let's go with that. But then it hasn't been that either. And not only has she not been the focus of the women's division, I don't even think she's been like an upper tier performer in the women's division in NXT. Like, I think you look at, it's crazy to say, but I even look at that Izzy Dame and Tatum Paxley feud, and I'm like, that's been more interesting than the Blake Monroe stuff, Yeah. Kalani Jordan, a little more edgy and interesting than Blake Monroe. So yeah, like, I think this may be a blessing in disguise for her. Like, if they kind of go with Thea Hale here and get that secondary title stink off of Blake Monroe, and she can, maybe she can go up and work with, whoever wins the NXT championship next, or she's the next big heel that can get a title shot. Like, that may end up being a better angle for her at this point, to be more relevant. I think, like I said, you can look back and go, yeah, it made sense, but boy, it hasn't worked out. It has not worked out, and this is like a perfect microcosm of it not working out for her in NXT.
No doubt.
Also this week, Seth Rollins got an interview with Julian Edelman, and Blake, he called himself the perfect wrestler. The perfect wrestler. That's not my words. It's not just me saying it. It's Sports Illustrated. That's other people. That's him saying it. That's him saying it too. And the context was pretty much that. Like, I'm a perfect wrestler. For WWE, I can do it all. Basically, I can wrestle good matches. I can brawl. I can talk. I can do comedy. I got cool entrances. I can do these interviews. I am a perfect wrestler. Are you buying what Seth's selling there, or is he a little bit talking too big for his britches?
I mean, he's got a lot of the attributes probably you'd want in a perfect, like, professional wrestler. Now, goes back to the conversation we had last week. Is John Cena the GOAT?
Right.
And we're bringing up, all the comparisons. Is John Cena the greatest wrestler ever? No. Was Hogan the greatest wrestler ever? No. So it's like Rollins doesn't have the drawing power. So it's like, again, if you're just trying to craft a perfect professional wrestler in the ring, I mean, he's about as good as it gets. But it's such a subjective thing on like all the intangibles, the other stuff, right? And I think, that's the thing too is I don't want this to come across the wrong way, but not to say Rollins hasn't had to work for a spot, but like he's put in, I mean, think about the injuries he's overcome and like all this stuff, but like he also was very clearly a Triple H guy, right? Like he was a handpicked, you're my guy, we are going all the way. And even a decade ago, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, this is the guy who's picked to put in the spot with Sting and, again, just kind of be the opposite of Roman Reigns. And it's like, yeah, like he felt like the Triple H, right? Reigns felt like The Rock. Rollins felt like the Triple H of the group, just because, again, you just kind of look at how things played out. So, perfect is a strong word, but I mean, Rollins has got a lot of the attributes you need for sure.
I think he does too. I mean, perfect. Yeah. I mean, maybe I wouldn't use that to describe him, because I just don't think he's perfect. No. But he has a lot of the attributes though, especially like in the 2025 WWE, where you have to be able to do all of that stuff. Like you got to be able to do the podcast talk circuit, at any minute, and you got to be able to have a 30-minute match whenever they need you to, and you need to be able to brawl inside of war games, and so there is a wide range, and I think Rollins and some other guys too fill that range really, really well. I talk about Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens in that regard too. It's like guys that you could just literally drop in any place in the company and they'd be good. I think Rollins fits that mold, but yeah, perfect. Come on, Seth. No, nobody says that about themselves anyway. Like we gotta check that ego. Yeah. All right, that's the news of the week. We'll do more next week, guys. Time for Name That Main Event, a staple segment of our Pro Wrestling Weekly show here. Blake, what do you got?
All right, you get your choice again. 2000s, 90s, or 80s. That is your choice. For
all right,
one.
I'll do. I think I did 2000s last time, so I'll do 90s. I'll do the 90s.
All right, perfect. That was exactly where I knew you were headed, so that's why I have this one pulled up. So you're gonna get this, but I think it's kind of fitting coming off of a Saturday night's main event where professional wrestling won out over sports entertainment. So, your main event, Zach, in a no-holds-barred match, Triple H goes one-on-one with sports entertainment himself, Vince McMahon. Triple H, Vince McMahon, no-holds-barred. What a great spectacle this was, by the way. And I know you know the answer to this, but what a great spectacle. If you think about all the elements involved and where we are 26 years later. What a fascinating tale this is.
Fascinating tale, to say the least. For like, I mean, it's it has so, like, that night has so many reverberations through the professional wrestling industry on television and off television. Like, it's just crazy, like, what that night ended up meaning to the history of pro wrestling. You're talking about Armageddon 99.
Yes.
And I remember two things from that show.
Well, there's one thing I think some young red-blooded males will remember. I don't know if you're going to go that direction, but
that show.
Yes.
Oh my God. Okay, I kind of forgot about that one for a minute, but yes, that was an interesting moment for an 8th grader that I was at the time. The other two things are, number one, I remember the stage. Like, I thought the stage on that event was just awesome. It had like, just like it looked like a bomb got dropped on a city, and like what was left over was the stage. So you had like cars smashed up and looked like they were on fire. Like, just a cool stage. So I remember that. And then I remember, like, and this is a good tie-in to Saturday night's main event that we just got this past weekend, because I remember being like, damn, that sucked. Like, that really sucked to see Stephanie turn on her dad like that. And now she's with Triple H. And if you remember, if you can go back in time, 1999 Triple H was like a hated heel. Like, that guy was on fire as a heel at that point. And I remember being done watching that show, being like, dang, I am pissed, but I also am very excited to watch on Monday to see what happens. And I think that, like, it's a great example of like why it's okay for wrestling fans to leave wrestling shows not feeling good every single time. Like, it's part of it. It's part of the fun. And this definitely was that. And then you just think about, obviously, the Triple H and Stephanie relationship that budded out of this. And like what we have now is just goes back to this angle. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Triple H and Stephanie versus Vince is like the story of this era of WWE, where it's like, this is exactly how they're pushing it now. It's like, here are your new screen. Yeah, it's like, here is your new leader. Like, out with the old, in with the new. Like, that's exactly what this was in 1999. And I think you can argue it led to their best year of television ever in 2000. Week to week, it was the best I think they've ever had. And some of it at the beginning was kind of, you had to roll your eyes a little bit, but like, it was effective. Like, it wasn't completely run out the way that it was when you had the Authority or whatever this many years later, where it's just like, oh, I've already seen this. Please don't do this again. This was new. It was fresh. And like, it was something where you had a big consequence coming out of this, and it made you want to see what happened. So some of the other stuff on the show, not so much. You did have, I remember one of the worst builds to a WWF Championship match ever with the Big Boss Man and the Big Show.
Was that on this show? Oh God.
Yeah, it was. It's like Triple H and Vince is the main event. Here you go, Zach. 29 minutes, 45 seconds. The Big Show versus the Big Boss Man.
29 minutes. Oh my God.
Big Show versus the Big Boss Man for the WWF Championship. Right before it, 3 minutes. So,
holy smokes.
That should have told you all you need to know right there.
What else was on this? Do you have the full card?
Oh, I do. How about this? So you had the Rock and Sock Connection defeated the New Age Outlaws by disqualification. Jericho defeats China by submission. Kane and X-Pac in a steel cage match, which was kind of short, but I remember that being fine for what it was. Val Venus defeats the British Bulldog and D'Lo Brown in a triple threat match for the European title. The Hollies defeated Rikishi and Viscera. What a match that was, I'm sure. 423. Kurt Angle defeats Steve Blackman. This is very early in Angle's run, of course. The Acolytes won a battle royal to determine the number one contenders for the tag titles. And then, of course, who could ever forget the evening gown pool match for the WWF Women's Championship with the Fabulous Moolah and Mae Young as the special guest referees. And they would take it a step further the following month with Mae Young. But Miss Kitty, who you saw plenty of at this show, defeated Ivory, Jacqueline, and BB. So every eighth grader out there remembers that one.
Every eighth grader does, and thankfully, women's wrestling has
It's evolved.
far transitioned from that phase. But boy, yeah, what a card! I mean, God, they would put that on pay-per-view and charge you $50 for that. Like, that's crazy. And like the thing is, back then, I'd be like, please take my money, please take it.
Right. Oh, this is cheap. You kidding me? Charge me more.
Yeah, seriously. Like, man, oh man. Yeah. Good stuff. Name that main event. If you guys want to shoot in some questions for the show or some name that main event ideas or topics that you want us to cover, you can definitely find me and Blake on our socials and just shoot us questions there at Zach_Haydorn on X for me, at WrestleBlake on X for Blake. If you want to hit us up with suggestions or memories that you have of some of the shows that we talk about in this segment, that'd be cool to get that conversation going. But we'll put a bow on it there. Thanks to everybody who joined us. Fun show. Thanks to Sean, who's in our chat. Thanks to Tracy, and thanks to James, who was in there. Appreciate you guys for being here and for checking us out. Tell a friend about the show. We're on weekly right here on the Takedown on SI on YouTube. Usually it's Thursday. Next week it'll be a different day because of the Christmas holiday, and then we'll figure out what to do between Christmas and New Year's. So we'll be around, but subscribe to the Takedown on SI on YouTube so you don't miss anything. Turn on your notifications, and if you can, give this a like, and that way we can keep doing this thing, keep getting in front of more people, and continue to grow Pro Wrestling Weekly. Blake, any final words, dude?
No. Again, for all of you who may be doing other things next week, happy holidays. Appreciate Sean, as always, for the kind words. And, Merry Christmas, happy holidays, enjoy. And, we might cook up something fun next week, kind of looking at maybe things that we want to gift Zach, maybe some New Year's resolutions. We'll come up with something fun for next week. So.
We're gonna be creative. Yeah. We'll be around. We'll be around. And yes, happy holidays. If we do miss you, enjoy time with family, friends, whatever it is you do. And until next time, for Blake, I'm Zach. We'll see you later.